in detail about it later. I think we may be doing one of these via Joel, but then doing it for the Magic Circle. It's a little ways down the line, yes? Because I've been talking with folks there, and I suggested that we have you on and you do your Martini thing, but Joel's kind of keen for doing that. So, but that's something we'll do down the line, okay? Because I'm doing this one at a time. I just want to get this Friday one done with Arian, and so on. And basically, man, I got hit for a loop when I saw that, you know, bad, sad news about Norm.
About Norm? Yeah, wow.
I'm so glad I found that picture of you two guys. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah, I think I posted that maybe on. Where did you find it?
On the internet. Because Michael Likey had posted something for the International Assembly, but he posted the same kind of picture that's everywhere, yeah? You know,
Yeah.
Imagine picture. And I kind of went in and I said, no, look, let's use your words, but I'll find a different picture. Okay.
Ready.
Yep.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Anthony Darkstone.
Hello and welcome to our broadcast, and the first one of Darkstone's Picks. Some of you will know me from my writings on global music, and some of you will get to know me hopefully in the next few moments. Many thanks to Crow from Global Music for setting this up. And tonight we wanted to do something a little bit different. How different can you get? I have a wonderful friend that I have known for more years than he and I care to remember. He is a raconteur, a wonderful entertainer, a wordsmith, and a great writer. But he also makes the most wonderful martinis. So tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Scott Wells from Houston, Texas.
Well, thank you, Tony. I guess that since I'm from Houston, you would expect me to say, howdy, y'all. Actually, no, just welcome to Scotty's Bar. I appreciate you guys coming in here this evening. We're going to be talking about something, since it is about the cocktail hour, depending upon wherever you are, it's got to be 5 o'clock somewhere, right, in the world. And even if it's not in your mind, perhaps it could be. And that's what we're going to talk about this evening, is mixing the perfect martini. It's one of those things that I happen to really have loved over the years. I've had other kinds of mixed drinks and things that I do like, and I still try, and I do like a good single malt. However, we're going to talk tonight then about mixing the perfect martini. You'd think there's not much to it, but there actually are a few tips. I just wanted to talk about the type of alcohol to be using, the stemware that you would use, and also the shaker, and a little bit about that information. So here we go, get going. To begin with, I want to talk about the two different types. I happen to be a vodka drinker. I prefer vodka over having gin. Gin, as most of you know, perhaps is made from juniper, and and gin would be a classic type of martini. But by using that, to me, it kind of gives me a headache the next day. I can drink vodka pretty much all night, but gin, if I try drinking as much, then the next day that I'm not really so great. So what I prefer then is just a a good vodka. Now, vodka is distilled using various kinds of bases. In other words, that it could be like in Russian vodka, perhaps a potato base. It could be a rice base. It could be wheat-based, various kinds of bases of vodka. And then it is distilled and then filtered several times. I happen to be just a part owner with a company that's called Illusion Vodka. Let's see if I can get a little bit closer over here so you kind of see Illusion Vodka that's got some cards on the back and everything. And anyhow, the idea with Illusion Vodka, it's actually a wheat-based vodka that's been distilled 6 times and filtered 8 times. And each time that it does, it just makes it cleaner and pure and gets rid of a lot of the impurities and also contributes to a better taste. Now, along with that, I should point out that there are obviously various kinds of vodka. You know, I prefer like a Grey Goose, perhaps Kettle One, Belvedere. Those are some of my type of vodkas. I also like a flavored vodka. Amazing thing that you can do with vodka, of course, there are dozens, if not hundreds, of recipes that you can make for vodka, where you're going to be adding something, making a chocolate vodka, making it into a dessert. You can make it into a cocktail, pretty much everything. And if you go to a fine restaurant or a cocktail bar, you will see on the menu various types of cocktails, martinis that you can have with their vanilla. I mean, all kinds of crazy things. But my preference is really, I like a Three Olives. This is a Three Olives vodka. And this is a Three Olives cherry vodka. Now, that is infused with flavor already. And Three Olives, in my opinion, has the best flavors. And I'll tell you why in just a moment. But when I say flavors in which it's going to be, grape or bubble gum, strawberry, watermelon, pretty much about anything. Now, most other kinds of liquor companies or vodka companies, whether it's Absolute, or Grey Goose even, and a few others will have flavored vodkas. Now, in my opinion, that I think that those taste a little bit too sweet and too syrupy for me. This just, Three Olives seems to have about the right amount of sweetness to it, so it's not going to be overpowering. Now, another thing, a little tip that you may have, alcohol, your vodka, in the freezer. Bad idea. But as it's getting cold in the freezer, a regular vodka will not freeze because of the alcoholic content. That's but a one that has some flavor in it will not freeze either, but it gets a little bit thicker, so it's more syrupy, and so it's not really as good. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend putting that in the freezer. What I do recommend is, of course, having your glasses in the freezer so they are frosted. We'll get to that then in just a minute then too. So that's something, just a little bit about the vodkas and what I would recommend and what I like. Then it comes down to the type of shaker that you're going to be having. Now, you can have all kinds of, fancy shakers. I've got, a nice James Bond Goldfinger, shaker that's a gold shaker. Another one that I've had for a number of years is this larger shaker here, which is kind of an antique type of shaker, little screw on the top this way that it works just like all the rest of them, where you're going to be putting your ice then in there, and whenever that you pour it, then it'll be pouring out of the straining that way. This can hold 2 or 3 martinis at the same time. Likewise, with a typical shaker that would hold a couple of martinis, or you can have then a single type of martini shaker. In those cases, that what I also do whenever I travel is that I prefer to carry my own shaker, because a lot of times whenever that I'm there and have friends, I'll have them come to my hotel suite and have an opportunity to shake up my own. So that's why that I have this, which is O-E-N-O, Odino, I'm not sure, but this is a acrylic cocktail maker that is that you can carry on the plane, same kind of, and you have then, you can use this as to pour. I don't know why you would want to do that. So this way, whenever you can shake that up and you're ready to go then as well, and it's lightweight. And while we're on that subject, that's along with that, what I prefer, and again, while I'm carrying, if you're going to have a shaker, then you're going to have something to pour it into, which is why that I would then have these kinds of martini glasses. And these are just plastic glasses that are very easy to and lightweight. They kind of connect like this, so you have some stemware. So this way you've got the perfect kind of martini glass to use then as well. So that is portable to carry along with you in your suitcase. And always make a little bit of room for that. You may not necessarily be as conscientious as I am about my mixology, but to me, I think that it's important that you do have some good stemware. Now let's talk about that then for just a moment then also. And in good stemware, that there are beautiful glasses, all of which that I highly recommend that you're going to be using something that is going to be with a stem, because you want to be able to look at the martini and to enjoy the aesthetics of it to begin with. Just, I mean, it looks good. Depending upon if it has a flavor or not, it might smell good then as well. But as I said, there are different kinds of glasses and stemware. And I would suggest that rather than some that might be without that. So this way they can set up, like this, but, you have to put your hand around it. It starts to get warm. You want to keep the cold as you can, as long as you can. So this way, whenever that you're holding it that way, that you're not conducting the heat to the glass itself, as opposed to holding it by a stem. I know some places will, some bars don't have stemware because apparently, like with wine glasses, that as people drink a bit and they get kind of crazy in a bar, they might, knock it over or whatever, and they break a lot more. So a lot of bars are going away from the traditional stemware, but I personally prefer that and recommend that then as well. Oh, another thing is, like I said, there's even metal. This is one that I had received, which is a metal stemware. It's nice. It keeps it chilled. However, that you really can't enjoy, and you can't see the olives and also the martini that's inside the glass if it's going to be like that. But there are other kinds of fun stemware. This is one I have. That's one of my favorites. It is, my son is a fire eater. And so this is, you see, has some flames and everything coming out of it, then as well. And I've got various other kinds of pretty stemware. Okay, so we've got then the stemware. Now it's important then, of course, that you're going to be having the glass frosted. So it's important to pull that out of the shield. And you can see that this one is frosted because I've just taken this out of the freezer. So you start then with that. Next, then you would have to have then some clean ice. Just going to use my hand. Sorry, let me put that aside because we're just going to use just a regular size here to begin with. And with this, take a little of ice. Due to the nature of time, and since it's just me, I'm going to be using my hand to put that. If you were here, I'd be using some tongs, but just in the interest of time, we'll do that. So now you pour the alcohol, in there. Let me make a suggestion also. When you buy a bottle of vodka or gin, it always comes with a little stopper or a little plastic thing over here, and that will actually impede the flow, I think, of that. So my suggestion is that you just take that and throw it away. You don't need that because you're going to be pouring it straight in there anyhow. You're not measuring. You're just putting that in there. So throwing that away, and because you don't need it, save a lot of time. You can get right down to what you want, and that is to start drinking as soon as you can and enjoying that fine liquid. Next, giving it a shake. Now, shaking is important. And I say it's important because that's what's going to chill it, obviously. And there are two schools of thought. One is whether that you shake it or you stir it. And of course, James Bond says vodka martini, shaken, not stirred. That's his preference, which is mine as well. But some people say that if you are shaking it, then you're bruising the alcohol, that it should be stirred. You put it in a nice tall glass, and then you stir it with a glass rod or something. So this way that the alcohol is stirred that way. You'll notice I'm continuing to shake that. I think it's important you shake it over 50 times. I shake it about 68 times. I know about whenever it's done because my hands start to get cold with that then as well. After we're finished, that can be poured into the glass. And the reason that you're doing that is because that you want to have just a nice thin film over the top of the almost of ice across the top of the Martini. And I'm going to bring this over. I don't know if you can see this well or not, but there is a thin sheet almost of ice, a little ant could probably skate across. So that's important. And then the pièce de résistance that you're going to have some olives. In my case, some people use a lemon or a lime, or they put something, around the edge or something. My preference is for 3 olives. I like the olives, and in particular that I like blue cheese. And so this is where these other little fun things come in, and that is different kinds of stir sticks, or I should say olive picks, that you could have. And I'm just going to get 3 of those to put in. So this way we have 3 olives that goes in there then too. Once that's complete, we still are not quite finished. That's because the very last thing that goes across the top of this at the last moment would be just a little bit of vermouth. Now, this bottle of vermouth, it's dry vermouth and should last you pretty much a lifetime if you use it properly. There are a couple of different schools of thought on vermouth, and that is of either using it or not using it. I prefer to use a very little bit of it. Some people say, I remember I had a college professor saying that his perfect recipe for the perfect martini was that every other time he would go to a liquor store, he would read the label on vermouth. That's all the vermouth he would use in his. And so, and Bill Palmer, a good friend of mine here in Houston, had given me an idea. He said, or he was telling me about someone saying, all you need to do is to whisper vermouth over the top of this. And so the guy whispered vermouth. And he said, no, that's too loud. So it's like way too much. So what I've got is a small atomizer, which is something that you could use for perfume. Again, you can travel with this because it's way less than 3 ounces. And that just kind of spritz across this way that you have a nice little spritz, and that lays that vermouth on top of that sheet of ice. And so now then you have completed it. And let's just check the finished product over here. Perfect. We have the perfect martini over here. So that's the way that I mix up mine. And I would suggest if you have any questions or anything, there shouldn't be too much to it. It's pretty easy. It's either vodka or gin, and with just some olives, and then a spritz of vermouth across the top of that. So that's how that I think you should make the perfect martini.
Well, thank you so much, Scott. That was really, really, really something. And can your mouth water after you watch someone make a martini? Yes, it can. You know what? You did real good. And I have here something that you and I enjoy, which are some cigars. And rather than give you a nice round of applause, how about I just give you a cigar, Scott? There's a nice cigar. Here you go. There's a nice cigar for you. Do you have it? Yeah, I'm passing it over to you. I'm passing it over. You got it yet? Oh, good. You got it?
I think you got it.
Oh, excellent.
Thank you very much.
Right.
I appreciate that.
Excellent. Well, what better? You and I have sat in places having the occasional drink and smoking a cigar. First off, in your lovely home in Houston. We also did that in Scotland, I believe, when we were up there working at Stirling Castle. Okay.
We did.
That's enough right. For me. I'm just wondering if we have any questions.
No, not at this point. We do not.
Okay, that's good. Well, if we have no questions, I guess Scott must have done, as usual, an excellent job.
He did.
Giving you everything that you need to know.
Well.
I'm sorry, say again?
My mouth is watering as well, so he did.
Oh, is it? Yeah. Okay.
Well, I shall quench your thirst for you by imbibing a little bit here.
You should. I've been following.
Cheers, my friends.
Cheers, Scott. Yeah, cheers.
Cheers.
I prefer a twist of lemon, but then again, olives. That's a question I have for you. What are your thoughts on maybe having I know you prefer olives stuffed with a little bit of blue cheese, as you mentioned. What are your thoughts on maybe, a twist of lemon?
I think lemon is fine. Again, if you're going to be using something that, if you're not using a flavored vodka, then that way that lemon would give you just a hint or a flavor of that. If you are using or order some other type of flavor, not a flavored vodka, but something that is a concoction of whether you use 2 or 3 other types of liqueurs in order to make the martini, then by just kind of having the lemon around the edges of it, that's fine then too. One thing I forgot to mention, another thing as far as the spritzing of it, if you don't have the spritzer, another idea would be just to pour some of the vermouth into the glass and kind of swirl it before you begin, and then pour that back out so that you actually have a rinse, if you will, on the inside of the glass. So when you pour it, and some people like it dirty. I'm not really wild about that myself. Dirty meaning that it has olive juice in it. I feel that for me, has enough olive juice from the olives itself. But there is a company called Filthy Olives, and this is actually just olive juice. You can see over there, and with the olive juice that you would pour that in first. You could pour directly from the bottle or the jar of your olives, into that, or into a spoon, however much that you want of that to be dirty. And then after you shake it up, then put the rest of that on top of that. So that's another little variation. This is just the perfect martini for me, where there's really nothing except just the clean taste of the vodka itself.
Now, would you say that? I mean, it's my personal favorite, but you're the expert, and I would like to talk to you about that. You have blue cheese in your olives. What about if you just use olives on their own with just a hint about olive juice?
Good question. Okay, I kind of look at olives as being part of one of the 4 food groups. And so I'm going to be having an olive along with that because you're eating it. Let me say that olives, of course, just the traditional olives being stuffed with pimentos and everything that are just your regular martini olives are well and good, but they have started to add a lot more, whether it's going to be an almond, there have been little cloves of garlic, there are other kinds of flavor, there's hot jalapenos that are inside there. That doesn't, in my opinion, add a lot to the flavor of that. It's only when you're eating it. It's like if you're sitting in a cocktail lounge or some cocktail snack, the snacks, consider the olive to be a snack. And that personally, I think I like cheese and crackers whenever that I'm having a cocktail, when I'm having a martini in particular. So I, like some good Emmentaler, or just maybe some good Asiago or some Parmesan Reggiano, different kinds of hard cheese, and then some good crackers that would go with that. It just kind of complements the taste of that. And so that's why I like cheese, which is why that I like the blue cheese inside the olive. If I had the garlic or the hot peppers or whatever, that it would add a different nuance, a different subtlety of flavor. And or with an almond, it'd have an additional crunch, which is fine then too. It doesn't really add flavor particularly to it, but just kind of, again, eating bar snacks. So for me, I prefer this just because I happen to like cheese, and I like cheese and crackers with my martini, and so I'm kind of getting it my meal all in one here.
Well, that's a kind of question from left field, because it's not strictly to do with a martini. It's kind of left field. Now, as you well know, I'm old enough to go back for some years, and I was traditionally taught that when you're having neat chilled vodka, particularly the really, this kind of stuff. I don't mean Stoli or Stolichnaya, but this kind of stuff, if you could see it, which is pretty powerful.
Yes.
A little pinch of black pepper, freshly ground, of course, that brings the oils down to the bottom of the glass. What's your take on that?
I've not had that, so I can't really speak to that necessarily. I have heard of that, and I think that what that does perhaps is add another level of filtering, if you will, of kind of pulling some of the impurities into that pepper as it kind of would go down to the bottom. I haven't tasted that, haven't tried it, so I don't know if that's the case or if it actually adds little bit of a pepper, a little bit of a hot flavor to it. So I again can't speak to that. So I don't know.
Well, like I said, it was from left field, and it just kind of cropped up, and I thought, well, I'll ask.
One other thing that I wanted to add is that sometimes that whenever I do have more people over, that I've got a little bit larger container, that I would shake up then also, so which is really kind of a jumbo size.
Okay. Well, I had something on my mind, actually, that you went off and got your big shaker out there.
My shaker's bigger than your shaker.
So, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Your shaker is bigger than my shaker. The contest for whose shaker is bigger. I have to personally agree with you that shaking rather than stirring, for my taste, is probably better. And I like Bill Palmer's idea of just rinsing the glass out a little bit, and that's it. Yeah. All good,
right.
all good stuff. Yeah, all good stuff.
Good. Well, thank you very much, Tony. I appreciate you having me on your program over here, and I hope that I was able to help somebody who is interested. Then not only right now, that during this time when we're all sheltered in place and have a little anxiety and worry about this, I had gone earlier this week on Monday. I had gone into the liquor store to buy 2 weeks of liquor, back 3 times since.
Oh.
Buy 2 more weeks of alcohol supplies.
Yeah. For those, I have actually seen this before because you were on another show that I was emceeing called Arian Black's Magic Kitchen. But show us your shirt again, because I love that shirt. A nice close-up version of it. Yeah.
Yeah, this is actually sewn into there, with the olives, and then this one is
Isn't that a cool shirt? That's a very cool shirt. Well, Mr. Wells, I have to say to you, do not
This is called the Dino Martini. What is it called? Dino Martini shirt.
From the ancient Dean Martin, of course. Yes, I was just going to say to you, do not ever take that shirt off in my presence and leave it lying down somewhere, because it is likely to grow legs. No, I wouldn't do that. Knowing you, and we've known each other for many years, you would be kind enough to just give me that. Yeah, I know you got all kinds of cool shirts. You got all kinds of cool shirts and stuff. Yeah. Well, Scott, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a blast. It's just been really good and educational. Now, if people wanted to contact you and maybe get a recipe for you, not just from martinis, but something else or a different cocktail. I know you don't do this as a business, but from time to time, people have asked you.
No,
and,
but let me make a couple
small contributions. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Thank you, Tony. Yeah, what I would suggest is that I do have a weekly podcast. It's called the magicwordpodcast.com. And it's podcast is available anywhere where you download your podcasts. I know everywhere in the world. And I've got like 10,000 subscribers. And so I'd like to have you then also to subscribe as well and to listen. I've been doing it for about 10 years and have over 500 episodes out there that are available. So if you go to the podcast, themagicwordpodcast.com, that you can see in the archives the past episodes that we've got. And also that I would really encourage you to subscribe to my YouTube page. Just go type in Scott Wells. There are probably other Scott Wellses, but you'll find one, Scott Wells Magic. Just type that in. You'll find me. I'm looking to get more subscribers, because once that I get to a certain level, I'll be able then to actually do more live YouTube videos there. But I have to have a certain minimum, and I'm just close. And so perhaps you might be the one to push me over to make sure that I've got that. So if you could subscribe to my YouTube channel, that would be great. And again, just go and check out the Magic Word Podcast, and there you can also subscribe to a newsletter. And my email address, since I've already mentioned that a few times, is Scott, that's SCOTT, @ themagicwordpodcast.com.
Okay. YouTube, let's just spell that out. It's SCOTT, Scott Wells, WELL.
No, just Scott, just SCOTT at the magic word, THEMAGIC
I am typing
WORD.
in the chat. Yeah. The
Great.
magic
Thank
word,
you.
right?
Well, I was talking more about your YouTube channel as well, which is Scott Wells, WELLS. Yes?
Right.
Just go to YouTube and look for you there. Yeah.
Right. I don't know if that's under Scott Wells or Scott Wells, but I believe if you do a search for Scott Wells Magic in YouTube, that you can find that to subscribe to it. That would help out a lot.
Would you please
Sure.
just repeat the podcast name? Is it The Magic World or The Magic Word?
Word. The magic word, WORD, word.
Okay, I'm putting it in the
The
chat.
magic
so
word
can-
podcast.com.
Well, that's easy enough to remember, isn't it? The Magic Word Podcast.com. Yeah. Okay, cool. And YouTube. Okay. I think Scott's just going to disappear for a second and come back with a visual aid.
What I was going to show you, this perhaps might be good. I've got a cup, perhaps might show you the Magic Word Podcast, but then also there is the URL for that.
Okay. The Magic Word Podcast.com. Well, that's easy enough.
Very good.
Also, anybody who wants to contact Crow at Global Music, and we can get that address to you, and if you would like, contact Crow. Yeah. Well, I think we'll probably come to. Is there anything you want to add, Crow?
Nope.
Thank G very much for hosting this meeting, by the way. Thank you, G,
Thank you for being here, Scott.
doing this. Thank you, Tony, for hosting it.
Not at all. A great pleasure, and thank you for giving us. I know you're a busy man, and that you've made time, especially to come do this. And well, look forward to chatting with you again, and maybe the next time round we'll talk about fine malts.
Some single malts. That's not a bad idea.
Yeah, exactly.
Meantime, I think I'll enjoy a cigar. Thank you for the cigar, by the way. That's great. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. I'm glad you got it because I know the brand. It's the same as mine. Yeah, the wonders of the internet and magic. So thank you all so much for watching. A round of applause, even though we can't hear you, for my very good friend, Mr. Scott Wells. Please check out his podcast. Please check out his YouTube. And if you want to get recipes and things like that, contact GrowXP at Global Music. You know how to do that, or any other way, and we'll get all those details to you. So, cheers. Thank you very much. Bonsoir, bonne nuit, buenas noches, kumbangwa, or whatever language you want to use. Thank you all.
Cheers to you, Tony. Thanks, Crow. Appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. Thank you all so much. Good night.